Hi, I'm Suki. Welcome to Getting Psychic, where you can listen to me use myself to test the theory that anyone can get psychic. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Suki, and I'm happy to welcome Judea. Judea is a psychic intuitive energy healer with a prolific list of accomplishments under her belt. Judea is a musician and vocalist who does sound bath journeys. She hosts wellness retreats, plant medicine retreats, destination retreats to powerful portal sites around the world. She teaches psychic development classes. You just published a beautiful book, Omnichakra, Psychic Intuitive Development Through the Senses, which is the first module of those classes. Judea also has her own network called Omnichakra, where you can create your own profile and communicate with like-minded people about different aspects of spirituality. She also co-founded and co-hosted the amazing podcast Spirit Speakers until she recently passed the torch to her amazing co-host, Patty Davis. Whoa. Jude, welcome. I'm tired just reading that list.
Hi, so good to see you.
Yeah, you too. How do you do it all?
Barely. That's the truth. I don't know how I do it all. Sometimes I look back and I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'm always scrambling to the last minute, but somehow it gets done, which also puts me in the place of like why I can never take a break, because if I do, then it won't get done.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, as we speak, you're prepping to go on a huge, epic double retreat.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Tomorrow I'm leaving for Rishikesh, India. And right after that, I'll be going to Cairo, Egypt.
Oh my God. That's amazing. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to pick your brain about that stuff in a minute. But I wanted to ask you this. When you were a little kid, you moved from Korea to upstate New York, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what was your earliest memory of a non-physical reality?
You know, it's not so much a memory, but my sister used to tell me that I would say that there was somebody standing in the house when I was super little. This is like pre-kindergarten, and she would be spooked by it and try to tell me that it wasn't happening. And then I also remember some strange things happening with my brother. Used to tell me that he would like be in his crib and tell me he was in the kitchen and watching mom make breakfast. And I remember that like spooking me out. And I have several extraterrestrial encounters that came to memory later. So I guess that would be my very first memory, but I didn't understand it at the time. But I think I started noticing like consciously phenomenon more in elementary school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like seeing things and hearing things and not really understanding what it was. And in a way being freaked out by it, like seeing energies and auras and sensing things. Yeah.
Wow. So you were that kid.
Yeah. A little weird.
Yeah. Good for you. Okay. So this is a list of clairs from your website. Well, you have mediumship ability, clairaudience. Is retrocognitive one thing?
Yeah. It's being able to see into the past.
Okay. That's crazy. I've never even heard of that. And then clairsensitive, psychometry, and intuitive. What is psychometry?
It's when you're able to touch objects and pick up information from that.
Wow. That's wild. Okay, so did you develop these abilities over time?
Some of my abilities were much stronger from the start, like retrocognizance, being able to see into the past, came very easily to me. Clairvoyance was very easy to me. Clairaudience was very easy to me. But very specific things, certain types of mediumship and, being able to see into the future, being able to psychically smell and taste came with more development over time. So that wasn't very obvious in the beginning and maybe few and far between, where now it's more common. So you can develop it.
Yeah. So I have to say thank you to you because of you, I have made at least 8 lifelong friends.
I love it.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know if that's an ability, but that's something that I also do. It's like link people together with their soulmates, maybe I'm a matchmaker or something. I don't know.
Yeah, there are people that are connectors, and I think you are definitely one of them. So I met these women on this retreat in Costa Rica over a year and a half ago, that you hosted, and it was with your Plant Sound Immersion project. And we were definitely meant to meet. We still talk almost every day, and I just have to thank you because it's an amazing thing. And so thinking about this had me wondering, how much of a sense of responsibility do you feel like you have in this life to help people on their spiritual paths?
An overwhelming sense of responsibility. It's like a mission that's driving me, and it drives me insane actually sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want it. Pass it on to somebody else, but then I can't seem to stop because the voice inside me is very loud. And so I feel, yeah, very much like a connector, and I'm just following the instructions of my guidance and just trusting that everything's going to land where it is and the right people are going to show up. And so far, it's worked really well for me. But yeah, it feels like I have to do it. There's like no choosing. It's like a force in itself.
Yeah. When did this start happening for you? When did you start having that drive?
I would say that it started pretty early on, but I was in deep denial of it. I wanted anything but. Like, I am not a spotlight person. Although, if you meet me in person, I have a pretty eccentric style, or I used to more. I think that I'm more modest these days, but still, I definitely stick out. And I draw attention to me, though that's not my point of being or looking the way that I do. I just do because that's how I feel the most comfortable. That's how I feel the most by like myself. And I did always have a little bit of a drawing quality, and but maybe a repulsive quality too, because I am so intense. But for example, when I started the podcast with Patty, I was really shocked, actually surprised at what an attractive portal that we had opened up. And when I first got that taste of understanding like what an impact it was having, I was like, I don't know what I want to say. I was just stunned. Like, I was in shock. I wasn't prepared for it. Kind of blindsided me when I went to the mainland, because I live on Kauai, and we had started the podcast and it had been going on for a year, maybe more. But I just live in this little place out in the middle of the ocean, and I kind of keep to myself. And then the first time I went to the mainland and helped host an event, or I co-collaborated in an event, all these people showed up that I didn't know. And I assumed they were part of the event that my friend was putting on. And it wasn't until like day 2 that it was revealed to me that most of the people came just because I was going to be there. Uh, and then they slowly started coming up to me and saying things, thanking me. And people had traveled from really far, like other states, for 12-hour drive and I was only supposed to do like a 30-minute sound bath. I wasn't even going to do
Wow.
a reading or a talk or anything. And that was the first moment that I realized, oh, wait a minute, like, what's happening here? This is a little wild. And then, yeah, from there, it just kept kind of growing. And I had a little bit of a struggle with that at first. But then at one point, I just realized I had to surrender to it and embrace it. And so I'm a little more comfortable in that seat now than I was when it started.
That leads into my next question, which is it hard sometimes to see yourself as a leader?
Yeah, because I feel like totally flawed. And I feel like sometimes I have this feeling, it's like, oh man, when people come and meet me, I think that they have this like idea of what I am or what I represent because of listening to the podcast or hearing some of my stories. And I think they expect me to be some certain kind of way. And then when they get around me, that I'm really pretty normal. I mean, I think I am, but then I also know I tell a lot of crazy stories all the time. And I do weird things in random moments. But then I think people really see that I'm just normal, and then I wonder if I become disenchanting to them, you know?
No, no, I
Yeah.
doubt that.
Yeah. Well,
No, I mean, like, yes, you are uh, a human being, and you're very kind and approachable, but I definitely don't think that meeting you makes people be like, she's just whatever."
just whatever. I don't know. I'm just like, I'm just whatever. So I have nothing
Yeah.
really, I don't have anything to share. But
Well, yeah, that's good. Stay humble. Stay
yeah.
humble. Okay. So, okay, you just referenced like people get around me and I'm normal except for sometimes I do weird things. What might be one of the weird things that you might do?
Um, falling to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably, for reasons that people don't understand. But because I'm discharging energy, because I am a discharge medium, which means that, like, if there's a lot of overwhelming energy in a place, like let's say in crowds of people or in old places or places that have had a lot of trauma or a lot of wounding and there's a lot of psychic energy there, I'll start soaking it in because it wants to be released and I become sort of the portal for that release. And there's techniques and things that you can do, but sometimes it's just the job of the medium, and that's the type of medium that I am. So I'll be sitting there trying to have conversations, like acting like everything's chill. But meanwhile, I'm getting all this like, oh, there was a lot of death here, a lot of trauma, a lot of this, a lot of that, or everybody's stuff is like getting pulled up and being tossed around the space. And I'm taking it in and needing to transmute it. And then it becomes so overwhelming that I have to just give into it. And when I give into it, it becomes like this current that takes on like a life of its own. And it can be many things. It could be crying, it could be wailing, it could be anger, it could be frustration. It really depends on what the culmination of the energy is. And so that's one of the things that can happen. Or, a spirit might arrive and like be pressing to be spoken to in that moment. And they don't care. Spirit doesn't care if it's embarrassing for me or if there's people around. They don't really have that type of courtesy. Like, they have a moment, they have a window, I've arrived and they need to say something, and so I might have to stop the conversation and talk to spirits, you know? And so like little moments like that could potentially happen.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so how is the balance? Like how much do you feel in control of that stuff or do you feel like when that stuff needs to come through, it's in charge?
Before, I used to feel really out of control because I didn't really understand fully what I was doing or what was happening. And now I know much more. I feel so much more firm now today than I did even just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm more trusting now because, of course, when you feel like falling to the ground and crying for no reason, the first few times that happens, you're like, what the heck is going on? Like, why is this happening? And it takes time to really understand. And now that I know, and I trust and feel very much the necessity of that kind of work to be done, I don't care what people think. Like, they don't need to understand. And if I need to embarrass myself for a moment, that's okay, because I know that I'm doing a greater good in the astral dimension, which a lot
Yeah.
of people aren't seeing, which is the medium's work, and it's very important because it affects, the quality of life and the energies we're dealing with here in the physical dimension. So I just do it now. I just surrender.
Yeah.
But, having said that, there are moments where it feels like it's out of control. It depends. It's really like what's happening around me, who's around me, what the situation is. Is it like appropriate? Does it feel safe? I've had moments where I feel like I've had to run to go find a place to have, one of my episodes. You know, I put things in place. Like when I go in my retreats, I give everybody, the I give everybody the debriefing. Like, if this happens, this would be the most helpful thing for everybody to do. And so I can pass through that process. Like, if we're at a sacred site and there's a gazillion tourists around and I'm about to channel through some energy, I'll ask all of the retreat attendees to kind of just stand in a circle around me and act normal. So that way, when everybody else is like, is she okay? What's going on? Everyone's like, yeah, it's chill. It's all good. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
She's doing a thing. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's a good idea. So, when you're doing that, are you like processing energy for the planet or the situation or whatever is in need at that time? It doesn't.
Sometimes I have a clear sense of what it is. And sometimes it's a mystery.
Yeah.
I've had moments where I felt for certain I was channeling energies that weren't even in, the area. It was something that was coming from maybe the planet and the collective. And certainly when it's coming from the area, I can tell when it's coming from the people that are there, so there's different reasons.
Yeah, okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the Omnichakra network?
Yeah, so Omnichakra Network was part of that mission that keeps pressing on me to make things happen. It was something that I was actually thinking about for a couple years, but it was one of those things that was like, yeah, yeah, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. Like it was kind of feeding into my consciousness for a little bit. And this year it was like a very pressing, like, no, you got to do it now. And I found the platform that I wanted to use, and it's really great. You can join for free. It's omnichakra.mn.co, and you can make yourself a profile. That's a pretty limited profile, but it tells a little bit about yourself. And there's all these different chat rooms basically in there for different topics, or there's the general chat where you can like post videos and stories and put up your own offerings. I really made it for other people in healing arts development who have offerings or want to develop themselves, because I think this is a very important time for people to be, sharpening their tools, basically. And I wanted to make a space where people, like minded people, could connect and practice or promote or build their clientele, because I already know that the people who follow my work are already open and interested in that. So I believe it's been helpful for people just to make friends and find people in their area, and then also to feel like a safe space to say, "Hey, I'm a psychic," or "Hey, I do energy work, and I would like to offer this up."
Yeah,
Which, in individual communities, I think a lot of people have a hard time. In their hometowns, I find that a lot of people are like afraid to come out and say something because it's like
totally.
a new path for them.
Totally. Yeah, there's, like, a lot of connection and education happening there for sure. It's pretty cool.
Thanks.
Do you think that this is a particularly important time to access non-physical reality for people, or do you think that it's something that we're meant to do anyway as humans?
I think eventually it's going to happen. So we want to be a little bit ahead, and my job as I see it is to prepare as many people as possible, because when a greater awakening begins to unfold, which is actually happening now, but we haven't even seen sort of the crescendo of these energies that are about to come in, it's going to be very challenging for a lot of people. So the mission on my heart is to get as many people prepared so that they're able to handle these energies and not get, I say, taken to your knees, basically, and be standing strong and be able to lend a helping hand to those that are sort of falling over. And these are just metaphors for like how I'm seeing it. And it's already happening. So, I don't know. I think it's would be impossible to say that you're not noticing that, things are being dug up, even for the most strong, most open, spiritually aligned people. Their deeper stuff is really getting pulled up and needing to be addressed. And luckily, those people have tools and they have community and they have these things where think of the other people in the world who, their unresolved emotions and energies and traumas and all this stuff are coming up and they don't have the level of support, or the way that they're tackling it is the slow way, where light workers, we can work very quickly, we can transmute energies very fast. And so the point is to get those light workers very confident and firm in what they're doing in their skill set, so that way when many hands are reaching out looking for help, that there's more people available. And that's what I feel like is the phase that we're in right now. So both answers, both questions are like a yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Is that why everybody seems to be going through the ringer right now?
Oh,
It's
it's
like a
so,
crazy
yeah.
time.
Oh my gosh, the last few months, like, for me, and what really validates what I'm already feeling is I probably had more people call me with like a life crisis situation in the last couple months than I've had in the last few years. Like once in a while I have a friend, I don't just let anybody call me, but if it's like a friend and somebody who's close to me, I'll drop everything and try to make time for them to help them. But I myself was going through my own thing, and I had my own stuff being dug up, and I had all my challenges. And then it seemed like every 3 days like somebody was like, I'm at my wit's end, rock bottom, can't handle, I need help. And I would help them. I would try to find space to help them if I could. And it was just also on top of my own stuff. And I was like, what is going on? Everybody's going through something. And then all my clients would be saying the same thing. Like, the last few months have just been really hard. And a lot of people, some of the things that they're dealing with is losing their faith and losing their ability to see the light and losing their ability to feel their connections with their guides and their spirituality, which has been a common theme.
Hmm.
Or being emotionally overwhelmed, depressed, a lot of anxiety. Yeah, it's all coming up.
So it's coming up. Is it an opportunity to process it,
Yeah.
or or something else?
It's an opportunity to process it, of course, if you're conscious enough to recognize what's happening and see it as that, but it's also, has the potential of, like I said, taking you to your knees and like really messing things up for you. And that's the difference between people who are conscious and mindful about what's truly happening and how things are affecting them, and those who look to distractions, drugs and drinking and TV and social media and whatever that they can to not look at what's happening. But the thing is these energies are getting so intense that the realness of what has not been healed is going to constantly reveal itself to the people, and they're not going to have any reprieve. They're not going to have any space to breathe or to decompress from what's happening, and it's all compounding on top of each other right now. And then
Yeah.
you add to it like the world events that are happening, and the spread of that information on social media. So we're constantly being bombarded with stuff, even if we don't even necessarily want to or try to. And even if we are not thinking, we're having a big reaction in the moment to seeing, buildings being blown up and, people crying in the streets. It affects us. And you just keep building that up, building that up. So we're all being affected in a very big way.
Yeah. Okay. So I like to think of my audience as a person who is starting newly on their spiritual journey. What advice do you have for them as they walk through what we're just describing? Like, what is a practical life application that someone can use as they walk through this time?
To exercise calmness and patience, it's very important to be very calm, because these energies that are stirring want to pull you up in the fear and the anxiety and the overwhelm. And that's definitely the thing you don't want to be in. But it's also very hard because you have, your own personal viewpoints of what you're seeing around you. You have the impact of the projections of all the people in your life who want to say, oh, you should be afraid of this and that and prepare for that and all of these things. And so it's very hard to maintain your center and your calmness and your patience with everything and your trust and your faith, that this is all leading somewhere greater. It's easier said than done, but that is the thing. And if you don't have any spiritual tools or you don't have any gods that you pray to or whatever, it's like to try to maintain that calmness, that stillness. Don't panic, don't rush, don't make any, you know, decisions or choices without really sitting. There's time, yes, I do feel this imminency about what's happening, but that's sort of, I guess, the cosmic irony is that it also requires you to be patient and to be still in order to retrieve the higher truths of like the true path and how to move forward. So that would be my first bit of advice is chill out.
Just calm down.
Just calm down.
Yeah, I think like it is true. There is like, if you don't remind yourself to maintain a centeredness or a calmness, there is this sense, especially in the beginning of a spiritual path or whatever. There's like this urgency. to like figure things out, to know, to understand, to
Yeah.
all of that.
Mhm.
So, but I think once you actually start practically applying that, you start to notice that like everything does soften. You like calm down and there is less of a desire to need to know. It's there's a lot of acceptance that has to come.
Well, you're going from point A to point B no matter what. If you're going through a spiritual awakening, you're going to get there. You're going to understand it. You have a choice though. Are you going to be on that rocky road in that like crazy car that's driving too fast and flying all over the place? Or are you going to take a meander, a stroll, and enjoy the scenery along the way? It's
Yeah.
like you're getting there no matter what. So just have patience with the process.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, I don't know what this is going to bring up for you, but I'm like called to talk about it. So, worthiness. I've been thinking a lot about worthiness lately and how it factors into my life and my process. What is your relationship with worthiness in this life?
Well, I guess I'll go into the woo about it here. I see that there is a vibration here on earth that is constantly convincing us that we're not worthy. It's like there's something in the air. It's a frequency and we're not fully conscious of it, but there's moments where I've tapped into it and I was like, what is this film in the ethers? Like, what is this? And it's like this almost hypnotic trance that's telling everybody you're not worthy. You're not worthy. You're not good enough. And we pull ourselves into this hypnotic trance and we're constantly dissecting ourselves. And yeah, we're imperfect. We're flawed. We've also been influenced in times of unconsciousness when we're growing up and we make stupid mistakes and going into adulthood. And then at some point we have some spiritual awakening and we realize the law of cause and effect and what we're putting out there and what comes back. And it's very hard for us to let go, to wipe the slate clean and just say, okay, from this day forward, and like to be in the active forgiveness of yourself and then also in the forgiveness of others, because there's also the sense of shame and blame and projection that we're also doing. So there's this thick energy here and it's very hard to break through, but everybody is worthy. Like everyone is worthy and you have to remember that you're worthy. Like you can have like the glory of the light and the love and all the things right now if you just simply truly saw and believed, forgived yourself and could just access that, it could come pouring into you. But the problem is once people are faced with that question, it makes them look at like, well, do I feel worthy? Like, am I worthy? Like I see, and I see it in myself. There are things that behaviors and things that I wish that I didn't have, or these like trigger responses that I'll get, and character flaws that I know I need to still work on. But I I am in a constant place of compassion for myself, of just being a limited human being, and but I do feel worthy. I do feel worthy and I do feel in those moments just like anybody else does. But it's a thickness. It is a energy that is here and it is constantly twisting us up in it. And that's what I see. I see unworthiness as an external influence actually. And I think everybody sees it more from this internal place, and yes it is, but there's this vibration, it's everywhere, and I think it's so deep and so thick that people get caught up in it and they don't even know. But I feel like, and I've been actually telling this to people for a few years now, once I got that moment of clarity, I was like, it's this external energy that's constantly, I think of it as like a subliminal voice
Mhm.
that's saying it. You can't hear it, but you feel it. And once I realized that, I was able to sort of separate myself from it and then really access that place of worthiness. That I was like not going to allow that voice or whatever it was, that vibration, to convince me that that was me. And
I
and
love that.
I mean, maybe that's an out there concept, but that's how I see it.
No, we'll take it. We'll accept that. That's great. I think that's gonna help a lot of people, actually. So, thank you.
Good.
Can we talk about extraterrestrials now?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's my understanding that you've been having experiences and communication with ETs and multidimensional beings for some time, but when was your first experience with an ET or a craft?
Well, my first memory, and it's a memory that's always been with me. It just wasn't until I was an adult that I realized what it was. And when I was very young, like in diapers young, I must have been like 2 or 3 years old, these tall, skinny beings would show up in my bedroom, and I used to call them giant ants, ant people, because if they had the big eyes and
Yeah.
like the ant looking head, but they were very tall and very skinny, and they like barely moved. And what I couldn't conceptualize at the time when I was so young, which I can now, is it was a very telepathic transmission that was happening between me and them. And I used to have this memory, and it was very regular. I want to say, I mean, several times a year, I would have this scary ant dream, is what I would say. And I even remember talking about it throughout the years of my life to my mom, like, oh my God, I had that scary ant dream again, the giant ants, the giant ants. And it's not that they ever did anything bad to me. They never harmed me. It wasn't anything like that. But when you're in the consciousness of the world that you know as a little kid, and then suddenly this like 7 foot tall, skinny, ant headed being shows up in your room, you you get scared.
Yeah.
And there was like, but that was only like really the bits that I could remember. There was like flash points of things. But what was interesting is those quote unquote dreams that I thought that I was having throughout my childhood were always the same. It was always like the same sequence of events, but I would just be older, and there would be like little variances that would happen throughout the years. And that went on until about when I hit puberty.
Hmm.
And then it went away. And it went away for a long time. And then I would joke and do artworks about these like giant ants, and that, I didn't really take it seriously. And it wasn't until Ancient Aliens came out, and somebody on that show had said the Anunnaki, which means ant friend. And like when I heard that, it was like a download. It was like boom. I was like,
Oh my
and I had
God.
already been, yeah, I'd already been seeing extraterrestrials at that point in time, but I never associated the ant dreams with extraterrestrial encounters. And and then it all kind of clicked together and made sense. And then once that happened, I started, well, no, I take that back. Not once that happened, but then over the years, I started like recalling more of the memories of what those encounters were like as an adult.
Oh my God, that's crazy. That is crazy that it means ant people or ant friend. What did you say?
And friend, that's what I heard on the show.
That
And
is
it was like,
so
and then I was
crazy.
like, oh my gosh, they look like giant ants, like their faces, it
Yeah.
just, I never put it together until that moment.
Yeah, that's wild. Side note, why I feel like on Ancient Aliens, I always have this thought when I'm like watching shows like that where I'm like, I feel like they take these people who are really reputable and like saying legitimate information, or they make themselves questionable by having insane hair.
Giorgio Zucalos.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have crazy hair too.
It's just like, well,
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't think you fit into that
I,
category, but when I watch that, I'm like, dude, come on, just get normal hair and people will believe you.
Einstein had crazy hair too.
True, true.
He was probably talking to extraterrestrials.
Oh, for sure he was. No doubt.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's part of the club. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, so do you still do readings sometimes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm doing more right now than I've ever done in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm stacked.
They're just booked out to into eternity.
Well, I'm finishing out. No, it's not into eternity. I'm finishing out and closing out the last of my readings for 2024, and I have no readings booked for 2025.
I see.
And I will yeah, I'll open it up, but I'm going to be very mindful because this last year was very intense for me in lots of ways.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a lot going on. And then you're doing regular readings on top of it. That's got to be a lot of output.
It's a lot.
And also, not that I should market your readings. Guess you're trying to like calm down, but they are amazing. I had one way back, but
Thank you.
it was obviously like an incredible experience. There's a reason why you're booked out.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful work that you do. So it's pretty cool. So do ETs or other interdimensional beings come up a lot in your readings?
Yeah. More these days than in the past, but not always, you know. I could have several readings and it not be a thing. It really depends on the client
Yeah.
and it depends on the energy they're carrying and what their, you know, portals, actually people are like portals to me, and depending on how elevated they are or what dimension they come from or what extra dimensional beings that they're connected to, it can totally portal me into those realms. And sometimes I get very lucky and I get like a really fun soul that can bring me all those places.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's pretty down to earth stuff, but yeah, it certainly does come up.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so what important things do you think that these non-human beings can teach us?
Well, they have a lot to teach us, that's for sure. There's so much. It's the mystical truths of vibration and frequency and energy medicine, and a more conscious way of living, a more efficient way of being, an understanding of the interdimensional realms that we can't see because we're very fixed in this
Yeah.
dimension. I mean, there's a infinite wealth of information and help that they can give us. And they're already starting to trickle that in through the open channels and mediums that are here. But I feel like part of their main agenda right now, to be truthful, is to prepare us for like a more open, integration with them.
Yeah.
And because they can't just show up because it would be chaotic. And so there's like a softening, and how they're softening the exception of their or the acceptance of their arrival is to get comfortable with some of the more open mediums that have the ability to communicate with interdimensional beings. And, who knows what else? There's lots of conspiracies about what's happening in the governments and everything. But I believe a lot of that to be true. And I think that there is, we're getting ready. And I foresee that more of a close or open contact, as they say, is coming, and it's coming soon. And so I think the main agenda of the communications that are coming in is to prepare for that.
Yeah. Are there things about the way that we live our lives or the way that they live their lives that would benefit us as a species?
Yeah, everything. Everything. Our education, our medicine, technology, what's more important for us to be focused on. It's not about the material distractions, and fashion, fame, fortune, all these things that we put so much emphasis on. It's about elevating our consciousness. There's so many skills that we have that we don't have access to, like telekinesis, levitation, or being able to manipulate physical objects with different frequencies and sounds. Those are kind of more basic ones. And I bet there are more that we don't even know of, but we potentially, as human beings, could do that. There are human beings that can do those things. It's been written in our
Yeah.
histories. Buddha, for one, had some of these like miracles. Jesus had these miracles, and they represent like the potential that we have as humans, but we're so blocked and so limited. Whereas when these higher dimensional beings come in and there's more of an integration, we will have an opportunity where that will be the primary focus for us, is to learn these skill sets that are not being presented to us now, So yeah, I think we're going to evolve very quickly once there's an integration with the extraterrestrials.
Fun.
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a great thing. I look forward to it.
Yeah. Seems cool to me. Yeah, it's so funny. I was just thinking, like, man, if you would have told me 3 years ago that I'd be sitting here on a podcast talking about integrating with ETs, I would have
And like, what
lots.
are you talking about?
Yeah, lots is changing really fast for a lot of people. So that's cool.
Well, it's funny. I've been waiting 20 years to have this conversation on a podcast and be able to do it. And 20 years ago, when it was like first coming in for me, I was like, oh my gosh, the world's going to think I'm insane. But I fully believed it and fully knew it then. But like
Yeah,
nobody was ready. So think of being aware of that and now coming to a place where everybody is wanting to talk about it. And it feels very validating. It's like, here we go. Okay, let's go.
yeah,
People are getting it. Like,
totally.
yeah.
And I mean, like, also, I feel like you laid the groundwork for a lot of people, myself included.
Well,
Like,
for a small group of you. For a good number of people, for sure. But I think that really what I found in my openness to sharing my own story was very validating for other people, because I got so many responses of people who are like, I saw this and I seen that, and I've never been able to tell anybody. I was always afraid to. And I'm like, that's like textbook exactly what my experience is. Like, that's how it looks. That's how it feels. That was how, the communications came in, or what that being looked like. I've had so many validating conversations with people that it's undeniably true and clear to me. Like,
Yeah,
but that's my truth. And you'd be hard pressed to convince me otherwise. But, at the same time, if you're not ready to see or believe it for yourself, that's your journey.
totally. So this is kind of a giant, broad question, but what do you think we're meant to be doing with our human lives?
Learning how to be blessed, learning how to be blissed, learning how to be happy. Because what I see is like, that's actually what this world was designed for. You could be living in your palace of a lifetime, or you could be suffering. And it's not so simple to say it's a choice, because there's karma and there's like these all these rules to the game, that kind of get us entrapped, and we get buried and distracted and, as I said, hypnotized by all these other things. But I think ultimately is like, we are trying to remember how to be happy and to live a blessed reality. And it comes with worthiness, and it comes with healing, and it comes with the cosmic truths of love and forgiveness and compassion and care. And so once we start living our life in accordance to that higher truth, everything in our physical reality starts shifting very quickly. And if you can be expressive of unconditional love, for example, which is a very hard thing to do, if you can hold that frequency, your physical reality starts shifting to accommodate and to give you and nurture you in the way that you need, because you're emitting such a nurturing energy. And so that nurturing energy is reciprocated to provide the things that you need. And it can start very small. I mean, I know people are like, what do you mean I'm going to spend the whole day having unconditional love? Yeah, it's easy to do for one day, but like, how deep does it go, and how easily is it triggered out of that? So you got to dig really deep into yourself to heal and to clean and to, walk the walk, and be in the practice of cultivating these very specific energies. And when you finally get it, your life will transform. I've seen it time and again. And that opportunity is here for all of us. And that's what I think ultimately we're trying to get to as souls. And sometimes it takes us many, many lifetimes to figure it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, this might not be the one.
Yeah, it might not be the one. But I think like the long journey is that's what we're trying to get to.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I think we can button it up. I mean, I feel like you have shared so much beautiful stuff, and it seems like we've been talking for like 2 seconds. Okay, so do you have any parting messages for our audience members who are newly on their spiritual journey? You're just gonna, influence someone's entire life right now, so
No pressure.
no biggie.
Yeah. I guess what I want to say to people who are just opening up in their spirituality is that you're not crazy, and what you're seeing and experiencing is the truth. The journey is to uncover what layer of the truth that you're engaging with, because I'm not saying to just listen and engage with everything that you're picking up, because there's many layers and many dimensions and many forces that are coming at people who are spiritually awakening, and can be very confusing, and it can be deceptive at times, and it can mislead you at times. But not to say that the actual scope of the whole experience isn't real. It isn't that it's not legitimate. It very much is. And so I encourage you to find community, and to find teachers, and to find people who can help you, and like to find, podcasts that you're not alone in this. And you can find the clarity and understanding of what it is that you're dealing with and find the tools to combat or amplify or, get you to the next level of your own understanding. But everything that comes with a spiritual awakening, it is very intense. It can be very overwhelming, but it is true and it is real. And you have to trust that. And then from there, go find the support that you need to carry you through, because it's something that is very difficult to do on your own.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. That's great advice. Jude, thank you. I'm so grateful not only for this interview, but for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Yeah, fun to talk. I was surprised we didn't talk about rectal entities.
Well, back it up. Back it up.
I was like, just knowing you, I was like, I wonder what kind of question she's going to ask me. I'm surprised it didn't come up.
I think that was in episode 8. So that was discussed. But if you haven't heard about the rectal entities, please go back.
Yeah, I love it.
Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as we did. Be sure to subscribe and follow us wherever you get your podcasts so that you never miss a new episode. If you liked today's episode, please consider leaving a review to help the other psychics find their way here.